Now, security and terrorism expert Michael Balboni. He's a former New York State Senator and former Homeland Security Advisor for New York. Sir, thank you for being with us tonight. First off, let's just get your immediate reaction to this tragic act of violence.
Tomorrow's 9/11. New York, more than any other place in the world, suffered the greatest tragedy that we could imagine. We were united after that. I'm hoping that this tragedy also unites us and stops with the partisan vitriol that has plagued our country in recent months and years.
Time is of the essence in catching who's behind this heinous crime. What do investigators need to do to pin down this gunman? It's been 8 hours.
So the longer this takes, that they don't have somebody in custody, or at least someone who's really a person of interest, the more it speaks to the organization and the capabilities of this assassin. Take a step back. Guy gets into, if it is a man, we don't yet know. Person takes a high-powered weapon, shoots one shot, kills his target from, we estimates range, but around 200 meters, and then escapes, and nobody sees him. So in any investigation, you let the facts take you where they take you. You don't make any presumptions. But the longer this takes to find somebody, you raise a question as to whether or not this individual was a professional, had training, and whether or not this is something that this individual had support to do what the individual did.
I do want to ask you, what do you make of the law enforcement agencies and that they had a person of interest, they said they had someone in custody, and then they didn't, then they've released it? I mean, what's your take on what's going on behind the scenes?
So as you've seen from the video, it's an incredibly chaotic scene on a college campus, hundreds and hundreds of people there. Right immediately afterwards, it's something that it's very hard to stop, freeze everybody in place and say, okay, that's the individual. And so law enforcement, they try their best, but it's not something. It's not like on TV. It doesn't happen that way. Having said that, it is, to me, very important that that a rifle sound, sound of a report, was heard, and yet nobody was able to identify an individual, which most likely means that the individual was shooting from concealment, and maybe had some way to suppress or to hide the flash of the gun. And again, indicating that this is a sophisticated individual, one shot hitting the target from 200 meters away and then escaping without anybody seeing them. Those are the hallmarks of a professional.
Yeah, this event, of course, was outside, lots of buildings nearby, plenty of people in the audience, somewhat similar to that Trump rally we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania. We actually know that Charlie did have his own private security that traveled with him as well. This was the start of an on-campus tour for him. I mean, was there anything that could have been done? I mean, and are we prepared for what we're about to see coming forward as far as trying to secure events like this that happen on college campuses all the time that are just supposed to be a free exchange of ideas?
Typically what happens when you have a protectee, first of all, you have to know that that individual is under threat. That comes from a variety of different sources, whether it's a social media scan, whether it's about the communications that have been given to that protectee. But this is a private citizen. Yes, he was seen as controversial and in many sectors, but he had spoken around the country many times before, and nothing like this. And yet now he comes in, and the hardest thing to do is try to anticipate where the threats come from and what threats there are. So I would argue that in an open-air setting like this, a rifle attack is probably the most difficult thing to stop, as opposed to trying to place an explosive device or trying to get close with a handgun or a knife. But nonetheless, it is something that we're going to have to rethink whether or not you want to have the crowd be able to see the individual, but yet perhaps there's a way that you can shield the individual from a line of sight, because that's what this is all about. And this is about preventing an adversary from having a line of sight to the target. And the way they do that typically is that they draw a ring around, a 360-degree ring. They say this is the area. It's 200 meters. You can't have any weapons within that area. And of course, that's very difficult to do. That's the other thing we have to calibrate our expectations. This was not the security detail of the Secret Service for the President of the United States. And even in that case, President Trump was almost assassinated, just nearly missed. So when I used to oversee the New York State Police, the state police, and their protective detail of the governor, there was always a huge concern that if you had someone who was dedicated and someone who was professional, protecting the person that you had some type of visibility is very, very, very difficult.
That's a really sad day. We got to leave the conversation there. Michael Balboni, thank you so much for your expertise.
Thank you.